Chapter 7. Greetings from the Jersey Shore. Even though I had my heart set on Florida, I surprised myself by enjoying our first 2 trips. I even got out of writing my vacation journal by agreeing to take all of the pictures and letting Timmy do all of the writing. I wasn't sure what amazed me more, that Timmy agreed or that he wanted to write in that thing. Then again, I didn't care as long as it wasn't my responsibility. On Sunday night, the usual routine commenced at exactly 7 o'clock. It began with the doorbell ringing, followed by T-Bone walking in, too impatient to wait for someone to open the door and invite him in, and the drum roll. We sat around the kitchen table, not knowing where our next adventure would be, only that it would be confined to the state of New Jersey. "Well, gang, we'll get right to the point," my father started. "Our next trip will be on Tuesday, and we're going to spend the day at Island Beach State Park." I wasn't sure if we were going to a beach or a park, so I just stared at them. Apparently, everyone else was confused, too. "I don't get it," Timmy said. "We're going to the beach," my mom explained. "You know, blankets on the sand, a big umbrella, buckets and shovels, a cooler with sandwiches and drinks. Come on, guys, the beach." "Well, why didn't you say so?" I asked, relieved that this day trip would be something more recognizable. "So we'll leave at 8 o'clock on Tuesday morning unless you have other plans or your parents need you around the house, Tommy." "No way, Mr. A. I wouldn't miss it." "Are you sure, Tommy?" my mom added. "I mean, I don't want your mom to think we're just stealing her son away." "Are you kidding? My mom keeps saying that she wants to buy you a car." "By the time this summer is over, she'll owe us a house," my dad whispered low enough that only my mom and I could hear him. When I woke up Tuesday morning, it sounded like everyone had been up for hours. I went to the driveway and took a second look. I never saw so much stuff. "What is all of this?" I asked my dad. "Ask your mother," he growled. "Seriously, what's with all the stuff? We can't possibly bring all of this, can we?" My dad didn't answer, so I surveyed the situation myself. There were blankets and towels, a huge cooler, 4 beach chairs, and a giant bucket filled with smaller buckets and shovels, 2 beach balls, a duffel bag with after-the-beach clothes, and 2 strollers. "How's it gonna fit in the van?" I asked. "Ask your mother," he said, looking more frustrated by the minute. A few minutes later, T-Bone had arrived, carrying his own towel, chair, and duffel bag. My dad just glanced at him and shook his head. It took about 30 minutes to squeeze everything into the van, but surprisingly, it all fit. As we pulled up to the guard booth, T-Bone looked confused. "Where are we?" "At the beach," my mom answered. "Where's the boardwalk? Where's the rides and the food and the arcade?" "Island Beach State Park doesn't have a boardwalk, Tommy." "I don't get it," he said, still confused. "It's a beach, Tommy. You know, sand and water. You don't need a boardwalk to have fun." "At the beach," said my dad. "But what if you have to go to the bathroom?" "They have a bathhouse where you can go to the bathroom, get a shower, or get some food," my mom explained. "Do they have an arcade?" "Why do you need an arcade?" asked my dad. "You have a beautiful day, the ocean, and the sand. It'll do you some good to get away from video games. You kids just don't know how to have fun." Oh no, I thought. You never want to get my dad started on his "kids nowadays don't know how to have fun" speech. "Honey, he was just asking a question," my mom said, as if she was trying to remind my dad that he wasn't legally one of their kids and he should be nicer. "You're right, let's just set everything up and have some fun." It was a beautiful day and the parking lot was packed. We parked really far away and ended up making 3 trips to get everything out of the van. We looked up and down the beach for an empty spot and finally picked one that was halfway between the sand dunes and the water. One year in Myrtle Beach, we learned firsthand why you should never go too close to the water as the tide washed everything we had away. "Okay, you boys help me with the blankets and the umbrella," my mom directed. We spread out the blankets perfectly and secured them with some shoes and the cooler. Just as we were about to sit down, Maggie came running across both blankets, leaving a trail of sand from one end to the other. "Maggie," my mom gasped, "look at what you did! There's sand all over the blankets!" "But there's sand everywhere," Maggie said, pointing to the beach. For a 5-year-old, she raised a valid point. "I know," said my mom, "but we don't want sand on the blanket. Got it?" "Got it," she mumbled, even though she really didn't. Before we were allowed to do anything, my mom passed out the sunscreen and told us to cover everything that would be exposed to the sun while she covered the girls and Timmy. "Can we go in the water now?" Timmy begged. "Please, please, please." "Sure, let's go," my dad said as he scooped up Maggie. "Who never goes in last is a rotten egg," she yelled. As soon as T-Bone heard the challenge, even though it was from a 5-year-old who says "who never," he threw off his hat and started running toward the water. After about 10 steps, he realized just how hot the sand was, and he started to scream and dance. When he reached the wet sand, he didn't stop. He just kept running right into the water. It took about 5 seconds until he realized that the water was still pretty cold. He started to run back to the blanket, but as soon as he ran onto the hot sand, he turned around and dove back in the water. "Tommy's funny," Maggie laughed. Even my dad couldn't stop himself from laughing. Knowing it would be hot, we all kind of quick hopped into the water. When we reached the wet sand, we stopped. Thanks to T-Bone, we knew it would be really cold. Timmy and I were standing in the water up to our ankles when T-Bone started calling us. "Come on, you big babies, the water is great." "I'm coming," I said, even though I had no intention of moving and still couldn't feel my frozen feet. Then, suddenly, I saw a huge wave heading straight for us. I grabbed Timmy's arm just as we were being knocked off of our feet. The wave knocked us down and we washed up to my dad and Maggie. "Who never falls is a rotten egg," Maggie laughed. "Listen, guys, be careful," my dad warned. "This isn't a swimming pool. The ocean has a riptide, and you could get pulled out fast. I want you to stay together and keep an eye on T-Bone." "All right," we said as we waded over to T-Bone. It only took a few minutes to get used to the water, and the waves were breaking really nice. The 3 of us tried to body surf because we were the only kids without boogie boards. After an hour, I realized it would have been easier to part the ocean. My dad held Maggie in one spot as they jumped the waves, and then there was Emma. My little sister looked like a sumo wrestler. She had a big diaper under her bathing suit, a sun hat, sunglasses, a life jacket, and swimmies on her arm. "Erin, she won't even be able to feel the water with all that stuff," my dad. "I know, I just get so nervous by the water." "Why don't you take the swimmies off so she can at least put her arms down?" "All right," my mom reluctantly agreed. Once my mom realized that Emma wasn't a big fan of the ocean, she even took off her life jacket. It could have been the temperature of the water or the sound of the waves crashing, but much to my mom's relief, Emma never went in past her toes. She was much more content to sit in the wet sand and dig with her shovel and bucket. It didn't take long until Maggie wandered over to help her. We were having so much fun that I forgot all about lunch until my mom called us in from the water. She looked in the cooler and gasped. All of the sandwiches were gone. "Honey," she slowly said to my dad, "I think someone stole our lunches." "What do you mean?" "Well, I got up here and the cooler was open and the sandwiches that were right on top are gone." "Are you sure?" my dad asked. She didn't answer, but she did give him one of those "what am I, stupid?" looks. "Whoever it was, they must have been fast," said T-Bone. "Why do you say that?" my dad asked suspiciously. "I came out of the water to get a drink about 10 minutes ago, and all of the sandwiches were still there." Just then, my dad noticed a heartbreaking sight. There were about 20 seagulls eating our beautiful sandwiches right on the sand dunes. "Let me ask you this," he glared at T-Bone. "When you got your drink, did you close the cooler?" "I don't know why." "Never mind," my dad said, shaking his head. "Erin, I'll be right back. I'll go get some sandwiches at the food stand." My dad came back with a box filled with hot dogs and fries. Luckily, the seagulls took our sandwiches far enough away that they didn't bother our second lunch. When we finished eating, Timmy and I went back into the water. I asked T-Bone if he was coming, but he said my dad told him to hang out by the blanket for a minute. Later, when I went back to check on him, he was buried in the sand up to his neck. It was the happiest my dad looked in a long time. After a while, we all ended up on the blankets. Everyone was either asleep or playing in the sand. At 4 o'clock, my dad said we should start packing up and get showers. I was so tired that I told him I would just get a shower at home. "We're not going home," he said with a big smile. Oh no, I thought. "Where are we going?" Timmy asked. "We're going to the boardwalk." "Really?" I asked. "You didn't think we would just visit the Jersey Shore and skip the boardwalk, did you?" I shrugged my shoulders. "All right, you guys go get showers and get changed while your mom and I take care of the girls." Timmy, T-Bone, and I got showers in the bathhouse while my dad loaded the car and helped my mom rinse the girls off in the outside showers. Once my parents were changed, we headed to the Seaside Heights boardwalk. "This is awesome," said Timmy as we walked up the ramp. One side was filled with pizza, places, games, stores, and arcades. The other side was the Atlantic Ocean. Besides the boardwalk, there was the casino pier that stretched out over the beach and was loaded with rides. "Let's go on the rides," Maggie said, pointing to the pier. "I want to play some games," Timmy said, pointing to the basketball game. "I'm drinky," Emma said, holding up her always empty sippy cup. "How about we eat first, then go on some rides, play a couple of games, get ice cream, and walk around?" my dad asked. They all started jumping up and down. We ate dinner at a place called the Sawmill. It was cool, and it looked like a lumberjack's lodge. My dad ordered 2 pizzas, and we looked at him funny, knowing we almost finished 4 tomato pies at Di Lorenzo's the week before. When the waiter brought over the pizza, I realized my dad must have eaten here before. The pizza was as big as the table. It was enormous, and after a hard day of swimming, it melted in my mouth. When we finished eating, my dad brought home some ride tickets, and we were allowed to pick 3 rides each. When we finished our 3 rides, we walked over to the antique carousel. "But we're out of tickets," I reminded him. "This one's on your grandfather." "What do you mean?" I asked. "When I told him we were coming down, he gave me the money to make sure you each rode on the antique carousel. There's only one other one like it in the state. It's kind of a family tradition." "Is this same carousel you rode when you were little?" Maggie asked my mom. "It sure is," my mom smiled. We all rode the carousel, even my parents. When we finished, my dad let us each pick 3 games to play, but warned us that it's almost impossible to win anything. "How hard could it be, Mr. A?" T-Bone asked as he surveyed the balloon and dart game. "A lot of people are walking around with prizes." "Yeah, but how much did they spend to win those prizes?" "I think I can win, Mr. A." "Good luck," my dad said as he passed out the money, winking at my mom. Timmy went first, and he picked the basketball game. In about 20 seconds, he had lost all of his money. I decided to go next, and I picked the throw the football through the obviously larger than the hole game. It took a minute to lose all of my money. Then there was Tommy. He decided to play the wheel. He watched it go around 5 times before he picked a spot to rest his dollar. "Let's see," he mumbled. "I can pick a number or a name." He scanned all of the names on the wheel, selected Hun, and laughed. "What's so funny?" my dad asked. "Nothing, honey," he snickered. But that is your name, isn't it, hon? Very funny, said my dad. You should be so lucky to have a girl call you honey, wise guy. You're right. Sorry, honey, T-Bone laughed. I tried not to laugh, but I couldn't help it. I always wondered if it bothered my dad that my mom always called him honey. Now, I knew it didn't bother him half as much as T-Bone did. T-Bone put his money down, and the man spun the wheel. It seemed like it was moving in slow motion, but the little clicking sound slowed down just in time to land on Hun. The game wasn't over, though, because there was a second wheel spinning that would tell us what he had won. As the clicking stopped, we all stood there staring. If the third wheel landed on a star, he would have won the biggest prize they had. The clicking slowed down, and I couldn't believe my eyes. "And we have a big winner!" the man in the booth yelled into his microphone. "A brand new flat-screen TV for the young man! Congratulations!" "Wow! Do you believe it, Mr. A? Do you believe it? I can't believe it!" "No, Tommy, I can't believe it either," sighed my dad. T-Bone jumped up and down until he realized he had 2 more tokens in his hand. He took one and placed it on Dad, looked at my father, and smiled. The man spun the wheel, and as if T-Bone was making the wheel stop with his eyes, it stopped on Dad. "This is unbelievable, folks!" he yelled into the microphone. "We have another winner!" We were all speechless. It really seemed impossible, but it happened. This time, he won a mountain bike. He started jumping up and down all over the boardwalk, remembered the third coin, and walked back to the stand. "What, are you kidding me, kid?" the old man asked. "Go play another game." "Where do I pick up the TV and the bike?" my dad asked the man, still in shock. "We're here until midnight. Here's 2 tickets. Come back before you leave." As my dad thanked the man, he was still shaking his head. The man was shaking his head, too. "You know, Mr. A," said T-Bone, "I still think you should have the TV. After all, it was your dollar." "Really?" my dad asked. "What about the bike?" "Absolutely not," my mom interjected, this time giving my dad the eye. "That's your TV and your bike. You won it fair and square, and we wouldn't dream of taking them." "Yeah, I guess you're right," T-Bone said. "But it was your money, so here you go, hon. Here's $3 back." "Thanks. A lot," my dad said, shocked that my mom wouldn't let him take the TV or the bike. We finished out the night with some ice cream and funnel cake and brought home some saltwater taffy. When we got home, my dad still looked puzzled. Watching T-Bone win twice with his money was more than he could take. He walked in the house and went straight upstairs as my friend hollered, "Good night, hon."